protect this house? Will you protect this house? I will. We must protect this house.
So the next big gameplay mechanic feature that ESG is trying to implement to keep a balance to the game is what you guys are seeing here, which is the vision cone. But how are they going to introduce it? There's two different versions of what Madden tried to implement. I feel like the best version is what you guys are seeing here, which you guys will see between two quarterbacks, Vince Young, who had terrible accuracy, and you guys see how small his vision cone is. Then you guys are going to see how big the vision cone is to a dominant quarterback back in the day, which was Peyton Manning. And you guys are going to see how big of a difference between the two vision cones are. So, is ESG Football trying to implement this great feature that we used to have back in the day with Madden, or are they going to go the route of what Madden 18 implemented, which was the precision target passing gameplay mechanics, which you guys are going to see highlights of later on in today's video. Now, this creates a unique balance for both sides, especially with now this being implemented for quarterbacks. So defensive side, which was introduced in the previous playtest, was pretty much the same concept idea. It's like a vision cone for the defenders, and that is called field awareness. So basically for the DBs, they have this kind of like circle, which is their vision. Anything that goes inside their circle, they're able to see receivers running the routes. So of course, any skilled player that's outside of the circle, based off their rating for field awareness, they would not be able to see running the routes. So this creates a huge dynamic for defenders to first off go about how they make their character builds, and they want to focus more on field awareness instead of everything outside of a defensive stat. So this was creating a balance from having everybody be able to see the entirety of the field and be able to lurk, which made it very difficult at the time for quarterbacks to make any type of pass. Now, ESG looks at that and sees that, of course, the quarterback has a little bit easier to make passes, but they also want to have like a counterbalance to it. So they're thinking about implementing the vision cone, but how are they going to go about it? I'm not too sure yet, but it seems like they're trying to implement what we used to have back in the day, which you guys are seeing currently now with the vision cone being implemented in Madden 08. And this is great because for the gameplay mechanics that they currently have, I feel like this vision cone mechanic that we had back then fits perfectly. Reason why you still have that free flow of scrambling and controlling the vision cone to direct and make sure you have complete accuracy or a little bit more accuracy to your passes. But this creates an opportunity for the defenders to see where you're actually going to end up throwing the ball to. So to see how they're going to go about this is going to be very interesting. So if the defenders are able to see the vision cone of the quarterback, they're able to have a better chance to also have a direction feeling of where they're going to end up throwing the ball. Even though they may not see the receiver within their circle because they're outside, but it gives them a great way to kind of pinpoint the location where they're going to end up throwing. And this also creates a dynamic for the quarterback based off ratings, because a lot of people right now in ESG football is just making scrambling quarterbacks with at least like one dimer, one gunslinger, which is very low ratings. And basically, quarterbacks right now is just scrambling around for the most part instead of passing. But even when they pass, they're able to throw, crazy arcade passes accurately, like it's Madden. So with this vision cone being implemented, hopefully it's implemented the same way that you guys see here, but it also helps out the quarterback for accuracy purposes. So if they're not actually looking towards a receiver with the vision cone and they try to throw, especially when they're running, then of course they're going to throw in that path of where the vision cone is looking at, and that creates the inaccuracy part. And I feel like that'd be a great balance for quarterbacks that just love to run around and throw unrealistic passes that ends up being accurately. So this is something that, I'm looking forward to seeing how ESG football is going to go about it. But then also you take a look here with Madden 18 with the precision target passing. Now this alone I thought was a great mechanic, but a lot of people hate this because it created too much complications, and this kind of limited for people that like to scramble. So of course you can still scramble out and try to target pass at the same time, but it was created so difficult that a lot of people just hated this feature. And then even using it, a lot of people wasn't used to it, and it created where you had to push an icon if you want to switch to another receiver to throw to. It would switch to that icon before actually making a pass, so you can direct the target location where you want to, pass the ball. But this gave a freeform passing where you can throw it anywhere. Unlike now, you pretty much have like a circle diameter that you're kind of limited to trying to make a pass within that radius. But in this, the thing that I also liked about it is that when you brought up this feature, even though you have the option not to use it and you can just use the default passing, but that's pretty much automatic. But when you use this feature, it kind of stops you from, panning around or just throwing to anybody accurately. This created a whole dynamic to try to make sure that you want to pinpoint a pass where you want it to be for your receiver to make a reception. And it also creates that dynamic feel for pressure that happens. So you have to try to, pinpoint where you want to pass the ball quickly before it end up getting sacked. Because once you're using that mechanic, you really couldn't move until after the fact if you just decide to, not pass the ball, but you end up scrambling. The thing is, when you do scramble, you're still locked onto that receiver to make a target pass, but you can also change it up and try to throw the ball somewhere else. But like I said, it created that dynamic difficulty, which was challenging when you end up scrambling. So I feel like they should also try to implement with that type of feature for ESG football, especially for people that love to scramble. But I know a lot of people is going to have, so much hate towards it because it's going to be too difficult for those type of people that love to scramble out and just make, arcadey passes. And of course, they're not going to like that. So hopefully they can figure out something that creates a dynamic challenge, and then also kind of, create that aspect for quarterbacks to try to sit more in the pocket or at least try to make passes compared to just constantly, taking off. Because I know from, playing a receiver, you're just running routes for no reason. When you're playing with a quarterback that consistently just takes off, it creates a boring aspect. It's kind of like where in NBA 2K, you're playing at the rec center pro-am, and you have all your players just sitting at the 3 point line, and you're waiting for the point guard to just do his handling crossovers until he can just dribble drive or take a jump shot to make a shot instead of passing the rock or running some type of play with players motioning around and dishing the ball and passing the rock. When you have it in football, quarterbacks is kind of like the same concept. They would do everything themselves and just constantly take off. And as a receiver, it's like, bro, why am I even running routes when you just constantly take off? There's no point of me running the route. I should just end up blocking for you. So that's another thing when you take a look at, quarterbacks right now. Then you also have to have that impact of a negative factor for quarterbacks that don't have any accuracy or throw power. So especially when it came to tournament play, faced some quarterbacks that just had a bunch of speed skill sets, at least one dimer or one gunslinger and not the other, and yet they're able to throw the ball like 40, 50 yards downfield very accurately on the run, off the foot, crossbody, whatever the case may be. So, looking forward to seeing how ESG Football implements this feature, and I would like to know your guys' thoughts about this down below in the comments. Till next time, I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.